We are on Captain Underpants number 6. If you haven't seen the other ones, there is a playlist that you can see, and then there's also links in the description. Captain Underpants and the Big Bad Battle of the Bionic Booger Boy, Part 1, The Night of the Nasty Nostril Nuggets. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another one of our disastrous misadventures.
Before we get started, check this out. Check out this comic book to get the full scoop of our story so far.
All right, here we go. I'm going to read it very quickly. George and Harold proudly present the awful truth about Captain Underpants of the Treehouse Comic Productions. Once upon a time, there was 2 cool kids named George and Harold. We demand.
Me too.
And they had a mean old principal named Mr. Krupp. Grr. Hey, Bobs, blah, 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 blah. One time, Mr. Krupp punished George and Harold. You have to obey my orders. So they got a 3D hypno reading and hypnotized him.
No way. You must obey us now.
Okay. They made him think he was a superhero. You are now Captain Underpants.
Yes, master.
It was supposed to be a joke. A tra-la-la. But it got carried too far. I will go fight crime now. Window. Way too far.
Hey, come back here, Bob.
Tra-la-la. Then one day he got attacked by a dandelion.
Help. You don't you hate it when that happens?
So George stole some superpower juice from a UFO. Ouchie. And gave it to him. Down the hatch. Glug, 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 glug. Suddenly he got superpowers. Hey, I can fly now. I rule. Oh, great. Bummer. Nowadays, whenever Mr. Krupp hears anybody snap their fingers, he turns into you-know-who. Tra-la-la. Uh-oh.
Not again.
And the only way you can stop him is if you pour water on his head. What the? Then he turns back into Mr. Krupp. Hey, what's the big idea, bubs? So whatever you do, don't snap your fingers around Mr. Krupp, okay? The end. Chapter 1. George and Harold. This is George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flap top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. And this says, please wash your hands after using the toilet. George and Harold's grades in school were much like whales in the ocean. They rarely rose above sea level. Melvin Snedley, however, he's the kid down there with the bow tie and the glasses, always got straight A's. Because Melvin was so academically gifted, people just assumed he was a lot smarter than George and Harold, but that wasn't true. You see, George and Harold were every bit as smart as the straight-A students, but in a different way. In a way that couldn't be measured by quizzes and worksheets. Please wash your hands in the toilet. Oh. Maybe George and Harold couldn't spell very well or remember their multiplication tables. Perhaps their grammar weren't no good neither. But when it came to saving entire planet from the nasty forces of unrelenting evil, there was nobody better than George Beard and Harold Hutchins. It's a good thing that George and Harold were smart enough to get themselves out of trouble because their silliness was always getting them into trouble. In fact, one time it got them into a really snotty situation. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2, Squishies, Part 1. It was demonstration speech day in Ms. Ribble's 4th grade English class. Every student had to give an oral report demonstrating how to do something. First up were Tim Bronsky and Stevie Lupiner, who demonstrated how to give a speech that they hadn't prepared for. They got a D-. Next up were Jessica Gordon and Stephanie Wyckoff, who demonstrated how to cook frozen lasagna in a pop-up toaster. After the firemen left, it was George and Harold's turn. Harold carefully tacked some charts and graphs onto the wall while George brought out a large garbage can with a toilet seat taped to the top. "Ladies and gentlemen," said George, "today Harold and I are going to demonstrate how to do a squishy. First, you need 2 packets of ketchup and a toilet seat."
Next,
said Harold, as he pointed to their display chart,
you must fold the ketchup packs in half and carefully place them under the toilet seat. Make sure that the packs are under their front 2 bumpy thingies on the bottom of the seat. Those front 2 bumpy thingies on the bottom of the seat. Well, now, once the ketchup packs are in place, said Harold, all you have to do is wait for somebody to sit down on a toilet seat. Do we have any volunteers?
"Come on," said George. "Who wants a squishy?" Although nobody in the class wanted to sit on the toilet seat, everybody wanted to see what would happen if somebody actually did. So George grasped one side of the toilet seat, Harold grasped the other, and together they pushed down. Splat, splat, splat. Everyone in the class was thrilled, except for the 2 kids sitting directly in front of the toilet seat, who were somewhat less than thrilled. "Hooray for squishers!" the children shouted. Now, normally George and Harold's teacher, Ms. Ribble, would have been very angry about this particular demonstration speech. She would have yelled on and on about imitatable behavior, and how it's not nice to spray ketchup into people's underwear. But Ms. Ribble had changed quite a bit since the last book, and now she was all about fun. "Come on, kids," shouted Ms. Ribble. "Let's all run to the cafeteria and grab some ketchup packs. Squishies for everybody. Ha, ha, ha." "Hooray!" cried the children as they bounded from their seats and dashed toward the classroom door.
Not so fast,"
shouted Melvin Snedley, who stood blocking the door with his arms spread defiantly.
"You guys are so immature."
Chapter 3, The Combinotron 2000. Melvin Snedley, the school brainiac, was not about to let anybody leave the classroom until he was given his demonstration speech.
"We still have 15 minutes left before lunch," said Melvin, "and that's just enough time for me to demonstrate my new invention, the Combinotron 2000.
"Oh, man," whined Melvin's classmates. The children all slumped back into their seats while Melvin pushed a plastic rolling cart to the front of the classroom. On top of the cart were a hamster, a small robot, which Melvin had built himself, and a strange-looking contraption shaped like an ice cream cone.
"Today," said Melvin, "I will demonstrate how to turn an ordinary hamster into your very own bionic cyber slave."
Melvin placed his pet hamster, Sulu, at one end of the cart, and his tiny homemade robot at the other end.
"I shall now combine this ordinary hamster with this tiny robot using the Combinotron 2000.
Melvin picked up the Combinotron 2000 and turned it on. A high-pitched tone pierced the classroom air, getting higher and higher in frequency as the machine charged to full power. Melvin typed some last-minute calculations into the keyboard on the side of the Combinotron 2000 as its laser extractor warmed up. Suddenly, 2 streaks of red glowing light flashed onto Sulu and the tiny robot. The Combinotron 2000 began assimilating information on the 2 elements it was about to combine.
"Don't worry, kids," said Melvin. "This procedure is totally painless. Sulu won't feel a thing."
Finally, a computerized voice started the countdown.
"Combining 2 elements in 5 seconds. Combining 2 elements in 4 seconds. Combining 3 elements into 3 seconds. Whoops. Combining 2 elements in 2 seconds. Combining 2 elements in 1 second."
A burst of brilliant white light shot out of the Combinotron 2000 and formed a ball of energy between Sulu and the tiny robot. The hamster and the robot began to slide closer and closer together until they disappeared into the energy ball. The smell of burned matches and pickle relish filled the air as hot blasts of electric wind knocked books off shelves and sent papers flying. Suddenly, there was a blinding flash of light, a quick puff of smoke, and it was all over. Melvin pulled off his goggles. No longer were a hamster and a robot sitting on the cart before him. Now the hamster and robot were one, combined at a cellular level. The world's first self-contained, warm-blooded, fuzzy, bionic cyborg.
Eureka! Shouted Melvin. It worked. I have created a cybernetic life form.
The children looked on as Melvin waved a metal detector over the hamster, and the reading went off the charts. One of the children raised his hand with a question.
Yes, said Melvin enthusiastically. Can we go to the lunchroom and get our ketchup packets now? But no, screamed Melvin. Will you forget about squishies for 1 minute? I've just created the world's first cybernetic hamster, and nobody is leaving this room until I've demonstrated his undying obedience.
Chapter 4, Bad Sulu. Sulu didn't seem to know that he had just undergone a groundbreaking transformation. He didn't act any different. He just wandered across the top of the plastic rolling cart, sniffing everything around him, only stopping occasionally to scratch his ears or rub his whiskers. But poor Sulu was in for a big surprise.
Sulu, said Melvin, I am your master, and you will obey my commands. I want you to demonstrate your new powers for the class. Do a super bionic jump across the room.
Sulu did not respond.
Sulu, said Melvin sternly, crush that plastic rolling cart in your bare paws.
Sulu did not respond.
Sulu, Melvin shouted, go outside, pick up a car, and throw it across the parking lot.
Sulu did not respond. Finally, Melvin reached into his book bag and took out a red ping-pong paddle he had designed especially for this occasion.
Sulu, he said angrily, do as I say or you're going to get a good spanking.
This time, Sulu did respond. When he saw the ping-pong paddle, he became very frightened, and his little hamster instincts took over. Sulu jumped into the air, grabbed the ping-pong paddle in his right paw, and then yanked Melvin onto the plastic rolling cart with his left paw. The children finally stopped thinking about ketchup packs and toilets for a moment and settled in to watch the show. Chapter 5, the incredibly graphic violence chapter, Part 1 in Flipporama. Warning. The following chapter contains graphic depictions of mean little boy getting spanked by a bionic hamster. While this event is presented for humorous effect, the producers of this book acknowledge that hamsters attacking are no laughing matter. Or hamsters' attacks. If you or someone you love has been a victim of a hamster attack, we strongly urge you to get help by seeking out a local support group in your area or by visiting whenhamstersattack.com.
The problem with incredibly graphic violence is that it's hardly ever fun.
Well, all that has changed since the invention of Flipporama. Check it out. And then we know how to do Flipporama. All right, here we go. Spanx for the memory. Oh, there was only one. All right. Well, and then next we will read Aftermath. And that will come in the next time we read. There we go. Ha ha. Good night. I love you.